Grandmama used to pray, oh Lord, please save them from the evil snares and all the dangers that entangle. Yea, though they walking through the valley of the shadows, just prepare and make them fit for every battle. Because I know they bound to come, and I know they bound to fall, but in your bounty, Lord, preserve their beautiful. Right, we still surviving off of grandma's prayers, surrounded by the jungle and the lion's den. Tread light, cause these traps isn't conspicuous. They hide right in plain sight, thinking we don't see them when they linger. Look right beneath the surface, then leave a trail of corpses. Crisis, prices, your life a disposable commodity. Like living in this fantasy, conditioned to believe that the system even cares. Whether selling CDs or walking or driving or reading, look, they don't even need a reason. It's just you breathing and being black. When it's such a pretty fall, it don't seem like we falling at all, at all. It's just a GMO dream, where things are never really what they seem. Please cue the violins, tell them just to play me something pretty, cause this gritty city got me screaming bloody murder. City got me screaming. This gritty city got me on some. Look, get your hand up on my pocket. Distraction, so lazy they use the same tactics. Like condom with some trinkets, just don't let them get to thinking. That light bulb gets a blinking. You know niggas and ideas. Oh dear, my dear, you may not know me, but I know you very well. Foresight, they say hindsight is 2020. Well, tell me something, we gotta see that history is on repeat. And maybe it takes a beat and a melody to speak a little louder than the message in the clouds or the essence in the air. I swear, my God is just so clear that a system driven by fear can never give us nothing but more of the same things. Oh, when it's such a pretty fall, it don't seem like we falling at all. It's just a GMO dream, where things are never really what they seem. Please cue the violins, tell them just to play me something pretty, cause this gritty city got me screaming. It's murder. Got me screaming, got me. This gritty city got me on song.
That's like my church. Jesus deniggerizes you, takes the nigger out of you, takes the fear out of you, takes the hatred out of your blackness, and gives you a different way of being in the world. But then Malcolm, lo and behold, he started outgrowing the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He said, I'm thinking for myself. I've been reading and talking to Wallace, his son, who was a great scholar, and I go to Mecca. I'm meeting all these revolutionaries and things. I love Elijah. He loved me, but I'm still growing. I'm still maturing. I still got miles to go before I sleep. But the common denominator is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's love of him, Malcolm's love of us, and the ways in which those loves take different forms. And the disagreements are deep.
What's happening, good people? This is RSTV. That was your man, Cornel West. He said his church, Jesus deniggerizes you. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Cornel West and his church. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully we can deniggerize folks up in here today. Welcome to RSTV again. This is Black Power Media. It's been a while as far as RSTV. Now, I know normally around this time, folks will be checking out the Rise Up Morning Show, the Rise Up International Morning Show. We decided to take a little break today and bring you this RSTV piece today. For folks who are new to the platform, make sure that you, as they do in YouTube world, they say like, subscribe, follow, and all that good stuff. We have a couple new shows on the platform. In case you missed Monday's inaugural show of Decolonizing Feminism and the Captain Maternal Agency with Dr. Joy James, Jaleesa Jackson, Khadijah Haynes, and our sister, I'm messing up names this morning. Check out the show. Make sure you check it out. Marsha Hines. Marsha Hines Myrie is the fourth host. It's a very new show on this platform. Make sure you check it out. That will be taking place every Monday. Excuse me, every second Monday, every other Monday, right here on the platform. So check out the first show. Also, later on today at noon, Professor Griff, he's here on Black Power Media now. He has a new show on the platform. It's called Arm the Masses. Make sure you check him out live at noon today. So every Wednesday at noon, you can check out Professor Griff. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, Tuesdays through Fridays, right here on Black Power Media, you can check out Rise Up International Morning Show, which is broadcast from France in the U.S. So we have a number of different great hosts on that. So make sure you tune in, tap in. Today, I want to invite a brother on who I've known for about 2 decades, and I think he can say he's watched me grow, because I might have been a little bit of a wild card maybe 2 decades ago. I said 2 days ago. That might be true too. Shit. About 2 decades. When I first came to Atlanta, I met him and members of his organization, some of his comrades, a few of them who have been on this platform, so shout out to them as well. But I wanted to bring on this brother because one of the things I learned about movement work is oftentimes you see folks in passing and you meet them where they are, but you don't know the road that it took for them to get to where they are. And I think the same is true for folks like me. I got some brothers and sisters back where I come from, that are happy that I'm on the right side of the barricades, because, there was a time when, we had that Detroit Red, even Malcolm had to be Detroit Red in order for him to be Malcolm. By no means am I comparing myself to Malcolm, because at times I feel more Detroit Red than Malcolm, but at the same time, we are a work in progress as African people. This brother here, he's been doing movement work for decades. And I think that might be an understatement. I would say at least a half a century. I don't want to go too far because I just found out the brother could fight. But anyway, during the 70s and 80s, Brother Watani Taimba served in leadership capacity of many organizations and many campaigns, and helped to establish various institutions in Los Angeles, such as the House of Umoja, which was a part of the RAM Black Panther Party chapter, the Center for Black Survival, and the Campaign to Free Geronimo G. Jaga Pratt. He is a co-creator of one of the martial arts systems known as Kubagani Ngumi, which happens to be the New African Combat System. And he's also the co-founder of the African Institute of Martial Arts, the AIMA. He served Southern California representative for the National Task Force for COINTELPRO, Litigation and Research, and the Western Regional Coordinator for the National Black Human Rights Coalition. He's a founding member of NAPO, which we know as the New African People's Organization, and the Malcolm X grassroots movement. One of the things that you young folks or you younger artists and activists might like is he, from 1993 to 1995, him and his company provided film and music management services for a high-profile artist known as Tupac Shakur. And as he stated, it provided an invaluable insight into the entertainment industry on all levels. But anyway, before I butcher his bio, I'm just going to go ahead and bring our brother and comrade Watani Taimba to the stage today. What's going on, Baba? How you doing?
I'm good, brother. Thank you for that bio. The brief bio, because that's what it is. And
right on.
Use my voice today too. Not sure what's happening. It's raspy, and you may have hear a little noise because the yard people just showed up. But hopefully
it's all good.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm good though.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, man, definitely glad for the viewers. I've been trying to get him on for 3 years. I told him that before the joint. But since he knew me before this side of things, like, man, y'all bugging. I don't know what you talking about going on Kalanji's show. He gonna get everybody indicted. But anyway, we are here now.
I don't think that was the issue.
We're here now. For folks who are unfamiliar, one of the things I found out, and like I said, I've been knowing you for a couple of decades, but I just found out you was from Mississippi.
That's right.
We've had a couple folks on from, is it Natchez? Because I always mess the name up.
Natchez.
Yeah. And they always been rivals with some of our folks from what they call Louisville. Now that's how you know they're from Mississippi. They say Louisville because it looks like Louisville.
Right.
But I was always told that they were sports rivals, and depending on who I talk to, the folks in Natchez is always saying that they run things. But I don't know. I'm ask you.
I don't know.
You don't know.
The Natchez Deacons weren't no joke.
So you still claiming?
Oh, you know that?
Okay. No doubt. So, I mean, for folks who are unaware, give us some background as to what got you into movement, what took you from a young Mississippi whippersnapper to organizer out in LA and bringing it over here to Atlanta, etc. What got you on that road?
Well, I live between Los Angeles and Mississippi. So, it was one of those kind of things. In the summer, you just go back to the country. So that's how we did that. Right. Not every summer, but a lot of times. So that's what the dual upbringing came from.
Right on.
So in 1965, when Malcolm was assassinated, I was aware of it, but I didn't think it had any impact on me until years later. That was February. So by August of 1965, the Watts Rebellion, that's in my front yard. We've been seeing what the police do to people for over decades. So as a 14-year-old now, I'm looking at something totally different. And so I'm seeing how we can come together. The street organizations, basically, they united around the oppression that was coming from the police. And so on many campuses, and at the time I didn't know, RAM had influence on many of these campuses and started student organizations. So that's how I got involved. So after the 1965 rebellion, and working on campus as a student organizer, probably at Manual Arts, because at 65, I was still at Horace Mann. So when I went to Manual Arts, that's when we began to do student activities.
Right on. Now, you mentioned RAM and the Black Panther Party. Now, of course, we've had, our brother Muhammad Ahmed, formerly known as Max Stanford, on.
Yes.
You talk about the 65 rebellion. We've had OG Kamasi on, folks like that. I know these are all names that you are familiar with.
Absolutely.
When it comes to RAM and the whole Black Panther Party piece, because again, unfortunately for folks who aren't in movement work, and some people who are in the movement, they have no idea about that connection between RAM and the Black Panther Party. So if you don't mind speaking on that particular history.
Yeah, I'll give you my perspective. If you talk to the OG, Muhammad Ahmed, already, so whatever Ak said, that's it. But let me just tell you from my perspective.
Right on.
So RAM starts on the college campus and eventually hits the streets in 1963. So by 1965, there were no public RAM headquarters, no public way to talk about RAM or even view RAM. So RAM started utilizing front organizations. And so the Black Panther Party was the first one. Whereas Muhammad Ahmed reached out to Kwame Ture at that time with Stokely Carmichael about using the symbol of Black Panther in the name. And so they met in New York in June of 1966. That was RAM, SNCC, and other formations, a collective forming the Black Panther Party of Harlem. RAM sent directives to other chapters, other RAM chapters, basically to start a party in a similar way. And so there was Cleveland, there was Philly, San Francisco, and I might be forgetting something else, other ones down. But on the West Coast was San Francisco, headed by Mamadou Lumumba and Ernie Allen. Ernie Nkalamoto, people know him as Ernie Allen now. And so basically they ran the West Coast part of the Black Panther Party, and that chapter was known as the Black Panther Party of Northern California. After May 2nd, 1967, Bobby Seale and Mark Tomlinson, basically Mark, forgot Mark's last name now, but he ran the Open Direct Action Committee. They went to Sacramento May 2nd, 1967 with guns, and that caused more repression on the movement. So it was decided that many RAM chapters would no longer function in the name of the Black Panther Party. On the West Coast, we became the House of Motion. Philly became the Black Guard. And so we utilized different names, but it was still a success organization of RAM. Still RAM, different names, and that's the way RAM had been rolling.
Okay, no, I appreciate that your version, because I didn't get all into that particular angle as far as the West Coast with Baba Muhammad Ahmed.
Yeah, so one thing I want to tell is that you have to understand at that particular time there was no internet, there's no social media, and there were regional contacts was about travel, about notes. And so if you wasn't really on the West Coast, you wouldn't understand a lot of the dynamics of it. And Muhammad Ali talked about that for years. Many different times he asked Mamadou Lumumba to do the history of it. Mamadou didn't do the history of it. So I'm picking up on something. I've actually written a chronology that kind of tracks our development, from the time of RAM all the way up to 2000. And what it does is just gives you the West Coast perspective connected to the other parts of our formations. And so that's what we have. Plus, Muhammad Ali was underground really since '67. When he got busted in 1972, he stayed with us, so he was my house guest. That was his personal security. So that was the relationship we had.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, I love to hear some of those stories. I've heard stories from Ia Fulani about when he got out and all kinds of different people. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was that guy that had to tell people don't stand next to him.
Yeah. That's wild, because like seeing him now, just years later, being mild mannered and smooth and everything. I told him one day, I said, man, you be getting a bad rap, man. They try to act like you was just wild.
He's always been smooth. I mean, I think we're not sure exactly what happened. In fact, he tried to explain. When he was in the tombs, they gave him some kind of medication. When he came home, I guess they wanted to send somebody out to be disruptive, and that's effectively what was taking place. The people who knew him was different. Often, if he was able to control many of the things. I was Assalamu alaikum, and he just chilled, and then we could talk. So it just depends on who he's dealing with.
No doubt. That's funny. You said you had to tell people don't stand next to him.
Oh, you kidding? You had that paranoia that was going on, and it was a certain period of time.
Right. Yeah. Now, my mama, Ia Fulani, and may she continue to rise in peace and power. She had told me a story about one time they was at the supermarket when he got out. I'm not going to repeat the story right now, but it was definitely a funny story. You mentioned the House of Umoja. Now, was House of Umoja, was it related also to what the US organization was doing as well, or was that something different? Because I know there was some type
for me, I didn't know the House. Us use the term Umoja. You use Swahili and they use House like that. But the House of Umoja was not us organization.
Okay.
Wezo Umoja used to be a part. I think he was part of us organization at one point.
Okay.
In Tacoma, California, and that was where he termed his organization the House of Umoja. And the Northern California chapter of the Black Panther Party of Northern California merged with them, and that's how we became the House of Umoja.
Gotcha.
At the time, I wasn't aware, and as I have to look back through history, these was both RAM formations.
Okay. No, and I appreciate that, because even with what you're saying, like the whole East-West perspective, that's it's the same with all these organizations, including the Black Panther Party.
Oh, absolutely.
Because there's things that literally I've learned from OGs on the West, and then different things I learned from OGs on the East, and then even I introduced a couple folks where you would think that they already knew each other,
right?
But the division was so hard, and like you mentioned, as far as there not being internet and all that, you kind of you dealing with all kinds of other formations and forces in between. Some of them agent provocateurs, etc., that kind of shake things up and purposely misdirect.
And I think one of the things that RAM did, like I said, after '67, was to really look at how we can organize and build without being, coming under heavy repression. And that was why they always operated on the fronts. We joined formations. We try to move formations in different directions. Didn't get caught up in trying to promote self. That's why you still, most of the history talks about the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party was not the only formation that was out during that particular time.
Yeah.
We just do the work, bro.
No doubt. And that's one of the things I appreciate about SNCC as well, because so many folks, they look at SNCC as a second tier, when in reality, some of the most notable folks in the Black Panther Party came out of SNCC. So definitely.
I mean, I think if you're talking about Kwame Ture and Imam Jamil Al-Amin was two members that was he was basically recruited into the party. They were only there a short period of time too. People must understand that.
Now I was thinking about like Kathleen Cleaver,
absolutely.
Marimba Ani, you know what I'm saying?
Yes. I see from that perspective, you're right.
Right, right,
Absolutely
right,
correct.
right. Yeah. So I mean, even with that, of course, when you talk about the party itself, folks talk about George, they talk
Mhm.
about Angela, who to my understanding was never in the party. Um,
She was CP.
okay. Yeah, and like you said, they mentioned Kwame and they mentioned Imam Jamil, but and a lot of the forces that really, were in the party, oftentimes, their names are kind of forgotten, so it's an interesting dynamic altogether.
Their names are forgotten, and sometimes people are put into the party what's not a part of the party. Like they
Right,
often put Batula as a part of the Black Panther Party, it was never part of the Black Panther Party.
right on, right
So
on.
that's part of the history and how people they just make the assumption if you're working with certain crews, then you must be a part of that. And we worked a little differently. We worked with everyone.
Right on, right on.
Well, I shouldn't say everyone, but
Right, right. Definitely not everyone. So, just real quick as we wrap on Ram, what would be like, lessons learned if you were to, if you had the opportunity to do it again, as far as a young organizer, or even building with Ram, and for folks who are unfamiliar, Ram is the Revolutionary Action Movement,
right,
and and I say that because again, we don't take for granted, or we take for granted sometimes that folks are familiar with terminology, and every day somebody's coming along and they don't know anything about anything. And it's just
right.
like, okay, well, what are they talking about? What is a RAM? But what would be some of the things that you would say? Because indeed, I definitely appreciate the security aspect by not just being a situation where folks can come on and sign up,
Right,
so on and so forth. Much like the BLA.
right.
Um, what would be some of the things that you would add or take away if you had the opportunity?
Well, RAM ended up being a cadre formation. Ultimately that's what it ended up being. But it was also to some extent centralized and decentralized. We had there were RAM chapters. Every chapter dealt with what was in the interest of that particular community. It wasn't like a 10-point program necessarily. There was a 14-point program that came out. I think it was 12 or 14 that RAM put out that was a part of the national organizing. And I can't remember the points of it now. But what I would learn from RAM was, one is that you go to the people and address the people where they are. Whatever program that you're trying to run, if the people say that in a different way, that's okay. It may not be the same words you use, but the intent is the same. So RAM taught me that. It's like, okay, just work with what you got. Don't be tripping on whether or not they're part of your program. If they don't say free to land, if they're not a part of your RBG, but they're a part of our people. And so that was another thing for me. A need to know. RAM particularly talked about, don't be trying to find out stuff you shouldn't know,
Right.
because RAM was a semi-clandestine formation. So when you start asking a bunch of questions, now I'm looking at you sideways,
Right.
or you come in with different information. So that was that. I believe and our struggle is protracted. Where RAM promoted itself as revolutionary Black nationalist, internationalist, socialist, anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist. So not nothing much different today than we saw in the past. Our founders, or people we shoulders we stood up on, was Robert Williams, Queen Mother Moore, and Malcolm was the three primary. Muhammad Ahmed actually was their student, and so I was his student. So it's a protracted struggle. That's something I learned from RAM. It's not going to happen overnight. We didn't get in this overnight. We're not going to get out of it overnight. But we hope to see our children, their children's children, do it. So we struggle for self-determination to try to make that a reality. And I probably didn't answer the question any kind of way you asked me.
No. You sound like me. You go. but we got the information. We got the meat of what's necessary.
Okay.
What and I want to ask, which I probably already know the answer. You mentioned that it was a semi-clandestine organization.
Right.
Do you think that's one of the reasons why it is somewhat glossed over as far as historically?
It's two things. It's historically glossed over because there's not a lot of information about RAM. The state has all the information. The government has all the RAM documents, everything.
They clear.
And after Malcolm was assassinated in '65, there was a conscious effort not to promote one person. So the whole concept of circular leadership or unified leadership, or whether not one person, because you cut the head off that we're going to deal with. And so we looked at collective leadership as the model coming from that. And the books and most things that came out about Ram may not have been about the same individual. For example, Soul Book magazine was Ram inspired, but independent magazine that came out with Mamadou Lumumba as editor-in-chief. There was articles in there by Willie Green. One article by Willie Green, I may have written it. The next one, you may have written it. But Willie Green's only name is on there. And so it took away the ego thing where you, me, I wrote this. No, Willie Green wrote it.
Okay.
So that was something that was a little different about Ram, where Muhammad Ahmed was our face of the things because he was the one that was out front. But people didn't know the majority of other people.
Right. No, and that's just. I mean, I've gotten so much information from that OG. Just I remember at one point, and I guess he still doesn't use it, but when he was at Temple, he used to write me letters every day like he was locked up. So what was no email, forget all that. It's like
letter, bro.
I remember the first time I got a letter from him, I'm like, wow, this brother, because he asked me for the address. I'm like, do you want to send something? But then, every time I go to mailbox, he was shooting off letters. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, he got an email address, but you're not getting emails.
No, we ain't got time for that. Yeah,
so it's referred it back. So that tells you that was letters done, but we also use couriers. We had encryption, So I would put something inside of an envelope with somebody else's name and give it to you, but your job was just to give it to them. Once they get it, then somebody else over. That's encryption. But we can beat technology. We go back to old school.
That's what we damn sure need to do. Go back to the old school. That's the problem. We all got computers on our hips right now.
That's right.
And
sometimes these things, the settings don't work, right?
Man, yeah. See, I wouldn't even go get into that, but
I'm gonna just say it was a conspiracy.
It was a conspiracy. so when you come on my show, it's got to be a conspiracy.
Right. Yeah, I ain't never had this problem before. I just got a new computer. I've done Zoom, but I haven't done anything else with it. So,
hey, don't even trip. I have problems with Zoom like you have problems with StreamYard. So folks be like, man, you've been on Zoom since Zoom been. I can't find my camera, can't pause it.
Okay.
They talk to me, I can't click on, so don't even trip.
All right.
So, but now, definitely, we appreciate that that history because, again, one of the reasons that I do this show and we do all our shows on Black Power Media is to highlight and give a historical context to folks who need political education, which I think is all of us, because there's always something we all can learn, But and also try to put things in its proper context because there's so much nonsense on the internet, as you know, and some of it, man, I've seen books about the Shakur family, and none of the Shakur families know anything about it, So, but I know you know that much.
I do know that. And I stopped doing interviews because what I told them, they often wouldn't use an interview because it didn't fit with their purpose. They didn't like what I said. And so after that, I'm like, maybe we should correct the history. I don't know. In fact, that's the only reason I did the thing with Dear Mama, because brother told me that he was going to make sure everything was included. So, I went with it because of that.
And how did that work out?
Well, actually, most of the information he maintained. I don't think it. I think he kept it pretty 100.
Solid. So, you mentioned Dr. Mutulu Shakur.
That's right.
Who became an ancestor last year.
Yeah.
His birthday just passed this month. Was it August 8th? Yeah, August 8th. Yeah. Let's talk about Doc. I think when did you all first meet? Who was he to you? What role did you play? Because I know that historically, it's I don't know about you, but sometimes, I look to the side and I see these brothers and sisters who are looked at as greats in our history books, in our movement books, because they might not always get to the pages of mainstream history, but just in our minds, so on and so forth. And they motivate and they inspire, even if sometimes they could be your age or younger.
Yeah.
Sometimes they could be elders, so on and so forth, but you looking like, damn, just when I felt like quitting, you know what I'm saying? Here's something to inspire me. Let's talk about that. Dr. Mutulu Shakur.
So me and Mutulu met in 1973. Mamadou Lumumba, who was the person who started the Black Panther Party in Northern California, after returning from exile in Guyana, brought him to the martial arts class I was teaching in South Central, on Central Avenue. Matutu came to the class. Mamadou introduced him. And so during the class, we had a break. I asked him if he wanted to show something. And our brother demonstrated his skills. I was like, okay, man, let's roll. And we just been rolling from that point on. We looked at the world very similarly. He's a year older than me, you know. So we were able to just gel. And over the years, we recognized that foot soldiers just need to come together, and all those various formations. Let's talk about a collective way of defending ourselves. And so that's how we begin to work. Eventually, they asked me to be the Southern California representative for the National Task Force for COINTELPRO Litigation and Research. In that capacity, Geronimo Gijaga was my primary person I was working with. I was a paralegal investigator for Lou Myers and Stuart Hallen, two attorneys that was working on G's case at that particular time. And so Matutu would travel from the East Coast to the West Coast, and that's how we maintained contact. When he went on to get his license for doctor of acupuncture, the state that allowed him to get the license in was California, so they brought him out there quite a bit. So from '73 on, Matutu and I have been in contact one way or the other.
Wow. So that's, if my math is correct, you're talking about 50 years of his life.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
wow.
in '73, I was 21. He was 22. Yeah.
Oh wow.
We're young man.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I can't even talk no trash. '73, I was 3.
73. In '73, my son was 1.
I was going on 3 because I wasn't born till December. So, okay. So I can't even claim a whole 3 yet. Okay. But so he's captured. What's this, like 87? I know that.
Yeah, he gets captured. I think it was 86.
86.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, he gets captured in 86. Eventually, it's extradited back to New York. Yeah. 86, yeah. But he's captured in Los Angeles.
Right.
Because he's captured in my town, as they say. And in the previous FBI and all the surveillance, Matutu and I would come up with surveillance photos. You know, so who's this cat? Who's that? You know. And so when I went back to the hearing in New York, I'm sitting at the table with the other attorneys as a legal investigator and paralegal. After I leave, they start looking, and I get this issued a subpoena from the grand jury for fingerprint, handwriting, hair, and testimony. Like, and you know, we have a position of non-collaboration, so that ain't happening.
Right.
So that was basically he got captured there.
Wow.
And they were looking at, because it's my town, and maybe I had something to do with this harbor. They wanted to charge me with harbor, but they never did indict me for that. There was no evidence for it. So.
Well, that's a good thing. I know you had in your bio you talked about traveling to Zimbabwe.
Yes.
Can you speak on that?
Yeah. Judge Haight, on the federal system, is Rule 25. I think it's 23 or 25. One of those rules that allow you to get a sentence reduction or some other relief. The judge allowed us to actually travel to Zimbabwe to see if they would take Matutu as a prisoner there, part of a POW exchange, because they had some white South Africans. And so we went to Zimbabwe, myself, Jonathan Lubell, who was the attorney, and Dee Lubell, the assistant, and myself. We went to Zimbabwe. We met with some of the revolutionaries who were in power at that particular time to see if they take him as a there. They say, of course, bring him here. You know, he could teach acupuncture. We can do many things. And once his time is up, we release him to society. And then they just winked at me. I said, okay, cool. Well, Mugabe was out of the country at the time because his wife, it was in England, I think his wife was sick. And so the decisions could not be made about whether they accept Matutu. So once Mugabe came back, we did get this decisions that Mugabe couldn't do it because there had been no precedent. Sylvia Borodini hadn't come up yet because she was able to go back to Italy because Italian citizen. And they raised us, well, you know, he'd have to give up his U.S. citizenship. And then the brother stopped and looked at me and laughed. He said, man, I don't know what I was thinking. He's not a U.S. citizen anyways. I said, no, you're right. He's a citizen of the Republic of New Africa. He said, okay, man. So basically, that's what we ended up. So we went back to court, and obviously we didn't get what we wanted. But to allow the motion to go forward, I think is historical. And most people don't know that it was because one of the things that Matutu was charged with was aiding a foreign government of Zimbabwe. That was one of the things. So that's why we went to Zimbabwe.
Wow. Now that's real interesting. And you mentioned Sylvia Borodini. Of course, we've had Sylvia on the platform here, broadcasting from Italy. And you know, it's and of course she was his co-defendant, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
No, Susan Rosenberg was not Susan. I'm sorry. God, it's going to come to me. Marilyn Buck.
Marilyn Buck. Yeah, yeah. I don't know why I thought Marilyn and Sylvia, but definitely, you know.
No, Marilyn was his co-defendant. I mean,
Okay.
That was another. If you talk to all the anti-imperialist white people, I met
Right.
Matulu. Most of the progressive Asians, I met the Matulu. Anybody, most of the people outside of the Black Power movement, Black nationalist movement, came through Matulu. He was a people's person. He saw the best in everybody.
So he was like Ashanti Austin. Ashanti, every time you see him, he got 5,000 white anarchists behind him.
Well, he didn't roll like that, but but he definitely understood, you know, people's power. He understood how our struggles are aligned in the roles that white anti-imperialists play. They play significant roles. That's how you get Sylvia doing time. That's why you had a Susan doing time, because they took leadership from New African independent forces of the Black Liberation Army.
No doubt. When you say New African, again, you know, there's people that's watching like, what's the difference between a New African and an old African?
Old African. That's a good one. In fact, for years, I recently took my DNA test. I found out what this New African goes back to. I go to Guinea-Bissau with the Balanta people. You know, but for years we talked about, you know, we came from many different nations in Africa, and it was brought to North America, South America, you know, the Caribbean, and we were forged together, you know, into one common people. And that was all mixed together. That made us a new African people, African people in a new land and developing a new culture. That's why we say New African. It's not to alienate ourselves from Africa, because Africa is our motherland. You know, everyone comes from there, and that's what we want to make sure our roots are. But we recognize that we have the right to self-determination, and wherever people are, as if they're no longer that particular African, they're a new African, and wherever they are. Zimbabwe is a new African nation. Zambia is a new African nation. It's no longer South Africa. Well, they still use the term South Africa, but during the struggle, the PAC called it Azania. And so they were out of self-determination. Yeah.
Right on. So the formation of the New African People Organization, you know, people, NAPO, of course, we know, correct me if I'm wrong, the mother organization of Malcolm X Grassroots, the mother organization of N'COBRA.
No, not N'COBRA.
Okay.
We're founding members.
Okay.
So NAPO comes about probably Matulu around 1975, 76. We start talking about how we can best provide, you know, resources for our foot soldiers and our exiles, POWs, and political prisoners. And so he began to have discussions among the younger, more radical elements within the formation. A lot of our elders who was in the leadership, you know, sometimes they'd be tripping on status or whatever the case might be. The soldiers always got along, regardless of whatever formation was in. We could recognize what was happening. And so we started networking around 75. We all joined the National Black Human Rights Coalition that brought over 5,000 people to UN in 1979. And so we worked through coalitions until 1984. We surfaced as a New African Peoples Organization. Malcolm X Grassroots Movement, our mass association, comes in 1990. So you have from 1975, 76, us working, trying to get to know each other, figure out how the best way to move forward. And then we take that time to surface. And so our NAPO was very similar to RAM in terms of we had two public officers, we had a chair and a national secretary. Those are only subcommittee people that people knew about. Chokwe was our chair for 30 years. You know, we changed national secretaries over the year, but we didn't think it was necessary to continue to change Chokwe if he was doing an effective job. You know, people say, well, why you don't get somebody else? You know, Fidel stays so long. Well, if they're doing an effective job, what's the problem? You know, with our reconstructions where we could vote him out if that was the case. Was, you know, that was the collective leadership about it. So he was still a chair, but he didn't run everything. You know, he was our spokesperson, and not to take away from anything from it, but that was the way we were structured.
Right on. So, New African People Organization, would you say it's would it be more of an offshoot from the Republic of New Africa, or is it just
no?
Okay.
And I'm glad you raised that, because that's what many people say. We split from the Republic of New Africa. I've worked with Imari over there. I worked with a lot of people in the PG. I was never a PG organizer nor a worker, but we in alliance with them, we will work with them. And the people who came, part of our founding New African Peoples Organization, Matulu, Ahmed, Kwame, and Onajibe have been the only people that came from the PG. All the other programs was from RAM's successor organization, the House of Emoji. programs and things that was promoted. So NAPO is a combination of all those formations. That's why we took so long to just try to work this out. What can we cut through? How can we cut through all the BS and just figure out best way forward towards self-determination for our people? And we talked about a Southern strategy, and that's why we're in the South. Some people moved to Atlanta, some people moved to Birmingham, to Jackson. We picked these different places to move to and basically entrench ourselves in order to move people in a certain direction. That's why Chokwe Lumumba was the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, and his son Chokwe Anti Lumumba is a mayor now, because we ran them for that. That wasn't the position they wanted to run for. NAPO said, okay, with 80% of the county, let's might as well take it over. And it's a part of what we call our national territory. Talk about 5 states: South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. It's 5 states. And people say, why 5 states? Why more? It's just basically given a definition. It could be more, it could be less. International law says if you're going to claim a territory, if you're going to claim a nation, you have to talk about not only people, but a territory for it. And so they gave the definition of the territory. And like I said, that may change. And it combines with the Black Belt South. So that's NAPO in basically in a nutshell. We promoted supporting our political prisoners and POWs, because at the time that we surfaced, most people were still running. They was running from things. Breaks happened in 1981. Some people that was initially going to roll with us decided it was too hot, so they didn't come along, and some for other reasons. But so we surfaced in the middle of repression.
Right. So when does MXGM come along? What role?
1990. So MXGM initially starts as NAPO promoting trying to unite in front of various political prisoner formations. Geronimo Gijaga. We work with Malcolm Super and them in New Orleans. We work with many different formations. These 3 or 4 different formations came from all of them right now. And at some point, I think it might have been Malcolm that said that, well, y'all quit playing. This is your organization. And so we just said, okay, you're right. And so we just brought it back and said, it's our mass association. So people come into MXGM so we can see their work. I didn't join RAM. I was recruited. I didn't join the house. I was recruited. And you don't join NAPO, you get recruited. If you join MXGM, on 2 different levels, you have a supporter member and organizer member. We can watch your work style. That's the same thing that RAM did. RAM's position was also you was selected, you were invited by somebody that was already a part of it. And so we kept that same thing for NAPO.
That's the best way to prevent infiltration.
Well, we've tried our best, and I think we mitigated a lot of it. We're still here. I think that was one of the things we look at too, is the model still works.
No doubt. Tupac. I know that that's you probably get more interviews for that than anything.
The whole interview would have been about Pac. Okay, but that's
yeah. I appreciate the work. You know what I'm saying, and of course, I appreciate who Pac was and what he represents, so on and so forth. But going back to what you was talking about, I'm for the plan before the man. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure that was that had to be a lot of stress and headaches, because you talking about prime time, early 90s. I think he's just was this after Digital Underground or?
Yeah, it was after. So I meet Pac around 74, something like that. So I meet him as a young man. So it's not, okay. I don't start my dealing with Pac as in the 90s. We've been talking about all the way through. In the Bay Area, he was a bandit. I think it's talked about in some of these pieces. He said, so he came to live with us in Los Angeles for a short period of time. And then we went back to the Bay. So a few times he came to stay with us. And so that was that same Pac before he's an artist. I mean, Pac was energetic. He would capture, a room. He'd just walk in. None of that changed about Pac. He was always reading. Very intelligent person. And I would tell people he did stupid things, but he was a very intelligent person. And sometimes I don't know if there was an issue with that, but yeah, that was Pac. But I haven't seen anybody that matches Pac to this day. I know there's going to be people hating on me about, what about so and so? What about so and so? I'm biased, I think Pac developed a certain style over the years. And when he was on message, he was on message. I didn't support hit him up. I was no longer managing him at that particular time. And so that'll show you there was a reflection. There was a total different person. Pac was a work in progress, as we all are.
Right.
I think it was Pac was 25, when he left here. So
Right.
just imagine Pac is 50. That's a different Pac. It's like, Kalonji is not the same Kalonji 20 years ago. I'm not the same Watani 20 years ago. And if I am, something's wrong.
So definitely wrong. Right. No, and that's one of the things that we talk about, because many of the freedom fighters. We're talking about Malcolm never saw 40. We're talking about Patrice Lumumba at 36, Che Guevara at 39, Steve Biko, I believe 36, 37, somewhere around there, and the list goes on.
Yeah,
Che, same thing. Fanon, Fanon didn't make it past 36. And so many others. So to see this young man who, right now, I have children older than, you know what I'm saying? I mean, like literally. 25, as you mentioned. I think that we and it's crazy because I still see folks my age attempted to emulate this 25-year-old individual. And there's nothing wrong, of course. You have, I think that part of being a part of this work and being successful in any type of way, you have to have something that the average person don't.
That's right.
First of all, you got to be out your damn mind to go up against the state. So in the words of Pac, he said, if you'd walk a mile in my shoes, you'd be crazy too.
That's right.
So we hip to that.
Yep.
Yeah. When was the decision made that okay, boom, Watani's going to be management, and how did that feel?
Well, at the Pac called a meeting for me, Afeni, his mother, and Taliba, who was New African Panther leadership at that particular time, to come out to the West Coast to meet with him, because at that particular time, Karen Lee, who was the publicist he was very close to, was leaving and to go work with Prince. Well, Karen Lee also had come out of the New Jersey Black Panther Party, and so there was a comfort level there. So since she was leaving, he asked us to get involved. None of us had any background in this world. And so Pac's position was, man, you can just figure it out. Y'all can just figure it out. And so we was trying to figure this stuff out all the way till the time I left with it. But most of my time was trying to keep going to court, keep him out of jail. But yeah, we was in the process of figuring it out. It was after Karen Lee left that we were filling the void in there. And so my company stepped in to provide public relations, business and personal management. So we did all of it.
Right on. So you was in Atlanta during that time, or?
I was in Atlanta. I had moved from Los Angeles to Atlanta, and at that, I moved from LA to Atlanta. We bought Pac a house in Atlanta, so you didn't have to constantly travel back and forth. And we set up our office out here in Decatur. And so basically that's where we were at that particular time. When we returned back to Atlanta, Tupac's Entertainment, the fan club, everything was run out of our office complex in Decatur.
Wow. So this was around the time that the incident with the Atlanta Pigs went down. Yeah.
Well, he was living here then. He was shooting Above the Rim.
Okay.
I think it was Above the Rim in New York at the time, and so there was on a break, so he came here. I think it was in October, something like that. But he, we was getting this vehicle repaired. He wanted to drive it, hear the sounds and all that stuff, and so we shouldn't have let him drive anyway. So that's how he ended up getting in this conflict with these two white off-duty cops. End up getting shot.
I mean, that must you coming from a movement background and getting that phone call.
No, I was there, but I didn't get the call. I was across the street.
Oh, okay.
I was in the driveway. Yeah, I was in the driveway. As I came out, it was already on.
Okay, and of course, there's been many stories. I ain't gonna get into that unless but
that's why I'm telling you I was there. So whatever story you're hearing,
yeah.
I've heard people tell the story too, and I'm like, I have to ask because sometimes I have to get confirmation. I asked Akin because he was there.
Right.
You know about that? He said, "Man, I ain't see them." So,
right.
Adding themselves into it.
Wow, man. So, I mean, so that must have been I mean, the beautiful thing is he got off.
Yes, he did get off. There was dirty cops. I mean, yeah.
Did they end up getting arrested or charged at all, or no?
I think they went to court, and that's how Pac got off because there was a hearing, and I'm not sure exactly what happened to them. I know they tried to sue the estate and all that kind of stuff, but Yeah, they was drunk, dirty, off-duty cops. With I think it was a gun out of impound. It wasn't even their gun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So they was just all the way live with it.
They just
So-
being typical Atlanta police or Georgia police.
Well, I'm glad they were rewarded what they came for.
You know, well,
So we say that.
Baba Akinyele said we will shoot back. There's a book about that. You know.
Oh yeah, no doubt. We've had him on a couple times. We've been waiting for you. He not been on twice.
Okay.
we know about the book.
You know
No
about
doubt.
the book. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's definitely that was one of the things that when we heard it, because I was still up north when we heard that information, I was like, nah, that didn't happen. And then we seeing it all on TV. I'm like, oh, this dude. In my mind, I'm like, he about to lose it all the way now, because I could just see, just having that energy. Yeah.
He was stressed, no doubt. I mean, he had been, Pac was taking care of the entire family,
No doubt.
So that's a lot of pressure, particularly you have to understand, come out of backgrounds when you didn't have anything,
That's right.
sometimes they were homeless. It was just, so unfortunately, some of those families like that, they just cling on to their breadwinner. And that's, just roll. So I try to make them get jobs. Y'all got to do something else. You can't just be sitting up over here, smoke up all the weed and stuff. Go,
Yeah.
I will sell weed.
Oh yeah. You sound like my uncle. Y'all get up off this couch.
Yeah.
You ain't about to drain this right here.
Right.
But that's unfortunately, like you said, when you come from nothing, sometimes you want to help others that was with you, but sometimes it's a detriment because, shit, they don't want to help.
Right. And when they don't want to help, they're mad at you because you ain't helping no more.
Yeah. Right. Like they want to be the desert instead of the stream.
Right. So Pac would often use me as a gatekeeper. They'd ask for money. Oh, see Watani. Already told me, don't even give them no money.
Yeah.
But I'm the bad guy now. So,
you was cool with it. You was cool with the bad guy role.
Hey, well, I played my position. Huh?
No doubt. New African Panthers. We know, there's been, we heard about, him joining, becoming leadership. I don't know how long it lasted. Of course, we've heard the WRFG radio interviews and whatnot that have been around for years. What did that look like? Was this, did you see that as a possible win for the movement? Because like with us, the founding of FTP, it came about because I looked at groups like Dead Prez and I looked at Public Enemy, so on and so forth. And I felt like there was not a real movement. Of course, Dead Prez is a part of Impedum at the time or whatever, but we looked at it like, okay, let's start a group and use that to bring the movement along. Was that kind of a similar type of?
So New African Panthers starts in 1979, long before Pac gets involved. Actually, it's a New African Scout organization we have from 6 to 17. From our 13 to 17-year-olds are New African Panther level before they're New African Scouts. So the New African Panther 13 to 17 is our rites of passage. They're more structured. They do more things. So that's the formation that Pac came into, and we had a national convention in Atlanta in 1989. I think, 1989, and that was where Pac was elected to be the chair. And that interview you hear on whatever year that WRFG interview, I think it's 89. So that's Pac's on there. I think my son's on there, but I don't think the interview that's out there in the public, they just have Pac because he was promoting Pac. But as an interview, because my son was the Minister of Defense, Pac was a chair. And so they was both on the radio at the same time doing that. Pac left from there. They did workshops on selling newspapers, so basically by any means necessary. So they hit the campuses of Spelman and Clark. Of course, they spent more time on Spelman, and that's where we got the sister to leave from that became our New African Panther representative that eventually came on to become Pac's publicist. So the Panthers, this New African Panthers was part of a New African Scout organization. It was not something else. We came from the Black Panther Party in Northern California, so we just kept the same name, but we're New Africans, so use the name New African Panthers. This is so people be clear. This is not like what we're saying, the New Black Panther Party, New Black International Black, all those other formations. I don't know anything about that. They form the way they form them. This is ours is a consistent string from the RAM successor organizations that go through.
And for clarity, because I'm gonna bounce back because you mentioned Northern California formation.
Black Panther Party, Northern California.
Right. So you're not talking about Oakland. You're talking about Sacramento.
No, we're talking about San Francisco.
San Francisco. Okay.
So basically in the San Francisco Bay Area, people live between San Francisco and Oakland. It depends on whatever. San Francisco at that particular time was a different area that black folks just lived in. So that was where the Black Panther Party in Northern California set up its headquarters, and they did that by August of 1966. You got to remember, June of '66 was in New York when Muhammad Ali said, "Okay, let's do the same for most other places." So by August of 1966, we have the Black Panther Party of Northern California with Mamadou Lumumba and Ernie Allen. Bobby Seale was initially a part of RAM, and he later on joined with Huey and started Black Panther Party for self-defense. As you know, that doesn't start till October.
Right.
So there was a third iteration of the party because you had Lowndes County, which was formation. Then we had the party that was a combination of RAM, SNCC, and other formations. That's the formation of the Black Panther Party in Northern California. And it was toward the end of 1967 when those formations began to change their name. Like I said, House of Mojo on the West Coast, Blackguard on the East Coast.
Okay, so they never end up. They never became a part of like one formation as far as with Huey and Bobby and all them. They just
Huey, Karenga, Mamadou, Ernie Allen, Obata Shaka, a lot of people that you see in the leadership of the movement today came out of the Afro-American Association. In fact, Swiko Kwayana, Ross Kofi's mother, was one of the people who was the founders of the Afro-American Association. And that's who assisted our people when they went to Guyana as well. But those links go so far back, and most of it's not written about because people just assume these things just happen, or they don't even see how these other people come into it. So I try to talk about people that are less known, that have less publicity, but play critical roles. Many of the people that was a part of our formation and development, people don't know. And to this day, unfortunately, they may transition, and I've been getting to do searches, can't find anything. For example, Mamadou Lumumba was brought on as the chair of the Pan-African Studies Department when I was at school. He was one of the RAM persons, founded the House of Mojo and the Black Panther Party in Northern California. So he was brought on. So when I began to look back through the history, the school don't even list him.
Wow. Now, was this a chair in Southern California or Northern California?
He was a chair of University, California State University in Northridge.
Okay.
Pan-African Studies Department. Yeah, sorry, I didn't make that clear.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Like I said, we appreciate the.
You had people in Northern and Southern California to answer the question.
Right. No. That's why I was trying to figure it out because I know you mentioned Northern California and then so you was in Southern. Right. I
was in Southern California, but we had a presence in Northern California. We had crew in Northern California. We were swapped back and forth. Depends on who would recognize me from the South. I go north, whatever the case might be. We work with our brothers and sisters in those areas.
Right on.
I just went right past something. You'll hear later on.
Yeah. No, it's all good. I'm zoning into different parts of it, so you still moving. So I will catch up eventually. Now and be like, damn, I should ask them this.
Okay, not a problem.
And you ain't gonna help me, but
no, I mean, because I don't do these interviews, so I may not answer your questions as straightforward. So but I'm gonna try to give you everything that you asked for.
Listen, it is. I mean, the beautiful thing about being on this side of the table is the information, being able to put things in context. Because again, of course, I've interviewed so many different, folks, many of them who are ancestors right now, and you always get their vantage point. So you could talk to Sekou, and man, I'd be pleased with him, and you'll get one particular piece because he was over there. But while he's underground, then you have, Shanti Jihad, some of these other folks that can give you another piece of it. Right. So I'm grateful because for us, the political education is the most important part.
Absolutely. And when people are underground, there's a disconnect sometimes. That's what you have to understand too, because they're not a part of those political discussions with the formation that's above ground. And so, there's a disconnect. Things don't always come through. In fact, Sekou and I had some discussions. We had to get clear on some things because that was perspective that they had. Like, oh no, bro, that wasn't us. Just like people say we came from Fitch. I was like, you know better than that.
Right. No. I mean, it is. It's. I can only imagine because it's misunderstandings and miscommunications with folks who are in general population who ain't locked up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, man, please. I was at this event one day. This sister was telling me about myself, and I'm like, shit. and she didn't even know I was me. That's the
Yeah,
thing that was crazy about it. And
I've
she had
been
it.
there.
Yeah. She talking about some stuff like, I don't even know what you talking about. Nah, he from such and such. He from Chicago. Nah, he ain't from Chicago. You know what I'm saying? But she insisted. But
Yeah.
that's just how this thing go. So again, we appreciate clarity. When you know, closing out on Pac, you know,
Okay.
there's a point, like you said, you mentioned that, you know, I wasn't with the old hit 'em up situation.
Right.
Okay, so he goes from this movement piece. I suppose, of course, the whole shooting in New York, uh, as far as him being shot, and I'm probably out of chronological order, and the piece where he's locked up, so on and so forth, and it becomes someone different. Am I wrong with the chronological order right now?
Well, there was parallel tracks. There was
Okay,
Pac was always had a we always had the Thug Life,
right,
but it wasn't being funded by Interscope. Interscope didn't want to fund it, and so we was
right,
taking it to the streets to get funding for it. So I finally came back to them. I said, "You need to fund this project, otherwise you ain't gonna make no money because some other people gonna get benefit from it as the investors." And so
and define Thug Life real quick, because of course we've had Baba AK on,
yeah,
but for folks who aren't familiar, because when you say Interscope didn't want to form Thug Life, everybody know Interscope of thugs. But let's talk.
Interscope, the Thug Life was a group with Pac being the only consistent member, and he would bring
Okay.
his position was going to bring other people in to the movement, to the music business through Thug Life.
Right.
So he would, he initially worked with Crips, but he was bringing to my Bloods, so it wasn't set tripping. So I wanted to make sure we didn't
Right.
get caught up into that. And so when I say the Thug Life, so they had more songs on there that was not as political. There was more street,
Right.
geared toward the street. And Pac's position was, I wanted to catch the lumping, as he would call it. Said he was in back in the day. I don't want to seem like a sellout, so I'm dealing with them. And then he's have the Brenda's Got a Baby. So
Right.
in Pac, people say, well, how you do that? Well, Pac was two people, so he could have, is a cooler F, and then now Brenda's Got a Baby. So yeah, all that's a part of who that complete person is. And he had the ability to do that. That was the brilliance of him. He could talk to whatever element he was trying to reach, and he felt that the ones that needed to be reached the most were young black men, as he talked about, particularly street ones. And so that's why the Thug Life, and probably later on, you had more tunes like that. Unfortunately, the emotional thing got to hit him up going. We struggled around there. We argued a lot, letting his emotions take over. There was disagreement, but like any other family, we had disagreements. I didn't agree with the move, so I didn't go. In fact, the whole team didn't go. Only person that actually went was Ogletree, and he was the last person to join our team. So I don't think he understood all the baggage and everything that came with it. But there was no hard feelings on either part. We left as a family. That's how we stayed.
Yeah. I forgot about Thug Life, the group. I was thinking Code of the Thug Life. So that's what
Code of the Thug Life.
Yeah.
But Tula developed the Code of the Thug Life to try to justify what's on Pac's, and then tattooed on himself. Both
Right.
was like, man, what have you done? And so I would try to go around explaining what he wanted to do. And then, so we was at this Gary, Indiana, this Black Expo, and Pac takes a stand and he said, I forgot what he says. And he turns around and looks at me and smiles. I said, that's weak, because I've been telling him all the time. You do that. I said, you just made this shit up on the spot, man. Come on, that's weak. So anyway, so the definition you hear about that's not the definition. It's primarily maintain a contact with the street. Matuda met with most of the shot callers inside the federal pen, and some in the state pens. Doc Holloway, all those people like that helped to contribute to talk about things like, one person snitched, every person snitched. No slinging around schools, no abusing, just the basic code, because there was going to be a street culture anyway. So it gives some code to that culture. And so we took the fact that Pac had it already tattooed on him to make him the spokesperson of that. And so we did Thug Life, Code of Thug Life concerts and benefits, to benefit certain communities. So that's where it comes from. It was written by Matula.
Okay, now I appreciate that, because you said Interscope wasn't funded. I'm like, why the hell would Interscope fund that? But I didn't realize you was talking about the group.
Well, I think one of the things was they didn't know the artist.
Right.
They didn't know the artist when they were. Pac was just trying to get some raw talent.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Now I got it now, but I was thinking, like I said, I was thinking you was talking about the Code of Thug Life. So that
No.
I
You know,
mean,
I know the NSCO people. Yeah,
yeah, we know they was funding gin and juice and
yeah,
all
yeah.
that type stuff. You know,
That's how I was able to deal with them. You know, I
yeah,
recognized what they were. So yeah.
no doubt, no doubt. Yeah, so definitely, you know, we appreciate that context, so on and so forth. I would say, you know, here we are. It's 2024. You know, you've been involved in People's Liberation Movement consistently for decades. You
Mm.
know, um, I was joking when I said a half a century, but I wasn't wrong.
No, you weren't wrong, bro.
What
The math
what?
from 1965 to now, I don't know what that is. So
Oh
yes,
man, we looking at 64 years? No,
okay,
59 years.
probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 59 years. Okay, 65 next year. So I'm cheating right now. So
Okay.
yeah, no, that's all right. That's strong. About 59 years, you can't beat that with a bat. And you go back like the Isley brothers,
Hey,
uh,
that's right.
and Earth, Wind, and Fire. But
All of them.
yeah, right now, what do you see? You know, coming through this close to 6 decades of movement work, moving through everything from the Black Panther Party to thug life. You
Mhm.
know, what is it? You know, what we looking like? You know, how do you measure this thing? Are we
Sure.
advancing? Are we on the treadmill? What's going on?
Well, since ours is a struggle for self-determination, we know that's protracted. Now, how we're moving forward, I think I'm inspired. I see young people in the streets. I see these different formations coming up. So there's a lot of inspiration there, but they lack security, and that's why I'm consulting many of these nonprofit organizations right now to try to implement security. I don't know what they thought they can just get up and say stuff and do whatever, and they wasn't coming at them. So, but they're open to it. You know, after they're getting hit, you know, they say, well, somebody show me how to block or something. So we, you know, I'm dealing with that part of it. So we are like our Malcolm X grassroots movement is intergenerational, and so that's one of the things what I think is important, because just because you have a person that's older, an elder, may not do the same thing they did early on in life, but you can still pick the brain. You can still get that information from there. And many things haven't changed, really. You could play a speech of Malcolm X today. You know, it's not much difference.
It's hip hop.
Yeah, you know, not much difference. So yeah, today I think what we need to talk about is finding ways we can unite. You know, everybody doesn't have to join one formation. We've always said that. You know, go where you feel comfortable, but just be organized in some kind of way. The people who, you know, there are times I've said, man, you know, I'm not even messing with them. I had to think about like why. You know, I ain't tripping on them. You know, as long as y'all not working with the enemy against me, I'm good. You know, not compromising my principles, I'm good. You know, or trash or whatever case. But yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I think we need to move forward in more of a unified way in terms of saying, okay, let's not look at what we got issues with, but what can we unite around? That's a 73-year-old now saying this. It wasn't me. It wasn't my 23-year-old saying this.
That wasn't you 20 years ago. I remember a convo we had. I'm gonna just say it real quick. He's like, "Look, man, what's up, man? Tell me what's happening." He said, "You can't bullshit a bullshitter."
I may have said something like that. I don't know.
I'm like, "Who is this dude, man? What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I appreciate that. And you mentioned you know, unity. Our comrade Deruba is talking about building a united front against fascism, of course, that you know that dates back to 69 with different formations. How important is that right now in 2024?
Well, I believe.
Or how realistic? Or how realistic?
In 2024, I believe Trump will bring more fascism in 2024. That's a fact. I'm not saying that Biden them didn't have some fascism going on, but I think that talking about elements of, maybe gradations or something. So yeah, fascism is here. It's here, and I think that if people understand what fascism is, they'll you know, be easily able to get on board. That's the problem. We use these definitions, but we can't break it down to just the average brother or sister. We got to be able to take them terms and say, what does that really mean? You know what I'm saying?
Plain.
Yeah. Right. Somebody just run on your spot and just take it over. You know, what is that? That's a gangster move, right? But now you can't do this. You can. That's fashionably controlling what you're doing. So it's if you relate it to people that in that way, I think they can see it.
No doubt. Well, I told you I was gonna hold you for a limited time.
Okay.
I did that, but I got one more question. I'm gonna sneak in there because I ain't like my
I'm
father
on now.
said.
It took me a
Yeah,
minute to get on, but I'm here.
it took you longer to get on than you've been on.
I think it's your platform.
Yeah, it's all good, man. I'll always get the blame, man. You know what I'm saying? I get blamed for things in different countries I ain't never been to.
Hey,
They're like,
blowing the
yeah,
plug.
Kalonji did something in the Netherlands today. I'm like, man,
Right, yeah.
I ain't even been there.
Can't
But
even find it.
yeah, not even looking for it.
Right.
Real quick, because we talked about security, and I know that you've been a private investigator, doing movement work, doing security work, so on and so forth. I read that you was a founder of Kupigani Ngumi.
Right.
I want to ask, like, how important. One of the things that Malcolm talked about was that every man, woman, and child should learn a martial art.
Yes.
For folks who are not familiar, we know that Kupigani Ngumi is a style that's pretty much been formed here. It's an African style. Kupigani, I believe, means method of combat, and Ngumi is arm, head, arm, hand.
Fist,
I might be a little off.
Fist.
Fist.
So
Right
Kupika is the punch, and
Right
Ngumi. So basically, Kupigani, there were a lot of different systems with the name Kupigani and Ngumi.
Okay.
So we, in the movement during the 60s, we were influenced by having a Swahili sort of be an international language. And so we utilized Swahili. And so we said our oath to the ancestors when we we're doing English and Swahili. And there's a line in there, Kupigana Kila Vita. And so when I began to go through that and look at it and say, well, okay, let's name our art this, because our art didn't come from traditional background. My background come out of Chinese Kempo, Shotokan, Thai Menace Gung Fu, and Yoko come from Northern Shaolin. I was Northern Shaolin. I was Southern. He was Southern. I was Northern. And we combined those things together, and we came up with a unique way of dealing with our system. Ours is geared towards security operations versus tournaments. We would send our students to tournaments just to get disqualified to set their stuff work. But for the most part, that's what it was designed for. Our cadre in Philadelphia, the Black Guards, started the African Institute of Martial Arts. And they taught, their system was called Al Jihad. In New Orleans, it was New African Taekwondo. New African Taekwondo. They kept the Taekwondo stuff, but it was New African. And so every cadre basically named their system something else. But it was important for all of our people to understand that self-defense is a human right. We have to do basic self-defense training. That's why during Black August Resistance, what we do is we have family fitness and defense classes. So I teach the family how to get in shape and teach them some basic self-defense. That should be a mass thing. That's something that Ram talked about. How on a mass level, everybody learn these self-defense techniques. Robert Williams, like I said, the shoulders we stood on. Rob was an NRA and started an NRA chapter. I'm an NRA instructor because of Rob. Firearms instructor because of that. Because what we did was we had greater access to things by joining those formations. Yeah, they were right-wing formations, but we knew that we could get things from there. So sometimes you got to go in and do what you need to do.
Right on.
So that's what comes. I'm sorry.
No, that's all good. Did you ever run across Robert Williams? Because
no, Rob left the country in '60. Yes, I did. I think take that back. Rob left the country '63. He returned in 1969. And so we had at the time in 83, before NAPO formed, myself and Elijah, Filani's father, we went to Detroit for the anniversary of PG founding, and Rob Williams came there, Queen Mother Moore, Imam Jamil spoke there. It was just a lot of different people that came together. So in that coming back together, Rob was a part of that. So it was returning after exile.
That sounds like a powerful meeting. You got Queen Mother Moore, Robert Williams, Imam Jamil. I've heard the legends about Baba Lajo.
Yeah. Rob made me do all the work. We did the advance, but I was a kid. So I say I worked with people in the PG, but we were not a part of the PG. In other words, I helped to set up the security for their convention, convening for the New African Nation Day. And so we worked in tandem with the New African Security Force and everybody else. We call it a unity of command. Depends on who was given the charge. They was overall in charge of the event, but each formation had their own chain of command. So it worked out over the years. Sometimes New African Nation Days were sponsored by NAPO, and other times by the PG. So we just go back and forth because we all New Africans.
Amen. We all in the same gang, they say.
Right, that's right.
Listen, I appreciate you coming on today. We gotta get you back on again because I kind of ran through things. This is the abridged version because we know that it's so much. I mean, we could have broke down pretty much every piece that we talked about, and it could have been a show in and of itself. But
Right.
definitely appreciate the jewels that you shared with the audience. And you know, anything else happening that we should know about? Or
no, we come into the closure of Black August Resistance, but I think it's been publicized well. Just check out the social media. I think I forgot who they having today, but there's an event today. Malcolm X Rasmussen was doing.
Okay.
I don't have the information in front of me, but they put it out all over social media. I'm pretty sure you all see it someplace. So I'm inspired by our young comrades that's doing this work, though.
No doubt. It's absolutely refreshing to see. I know it's refreshing for you. It's refreshing for me. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? Because I got my grandchild out there now. He doing the work, so I'm just
Young Akinyele at 18, we recruited him. He was 18 years old, so he's been with us since that part. So when you talk about
you said young Akinyele?
At that time, he was young Akinyele. He was 18. I was 21. So yeah, he was.
Oh wow! And he just turned 70. Shout out to him.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So that's to talk about a protracted struggle and consistency. That's the example of it.
Can't beat that with a bat. Listen, brother, we definitely appreciate you all. Stay on point. We gonna win despite what the state think, and despite how foolish our people may be at times.
Absolutely.
So definitely, and I appreciate you getting that equipment right too, because
my equipment is great though, but
it's just me.
I didn't say it. I think it's the platform. It's not you personally.
Okay.
Platform.
We blame it on StreamYard. I chose the wrong one, huh?
Yeah, bro. That's all right though. We got on. So hopefully
doubt.
I was able to give you something that you needed though.
Nah, man, definitely. Like I said, this is one for the books, as they say, and we definitely appreciate you sharing, because you put a few things into context and clarity as well, because there's always again, when you don't speak directly to folks who are involved, you get these different versions, and by the time it goes from mouth to ear to mouth, and listen, you was a getaway driver for Pac at the end of the day.
You're about right, because they was using the cameras in the hotel for a lineup, and not only they had me in the lineup with Pac, so I'm like, okay, so he was one, so I didn't.
You used the code. So we're gonna find out in the next interview is your fault. But anyway,
some things we don't talk about, but
you already know.
When you get an old man on too, now you're gonna get rambling. That's the other part of the problem with that though.
Man, it's all good, man. At least as long as the rambling's on point. You got young folks that ramble and they don't know what the hell they talking about. So it's all good.
Okay.
Yes, sir, brother. Well, be safe out there, and we will see you soon.
All right, appreciate you.
No doubt. You're checking out RSTV. That was Watani Tyehimba with a wealth of knowledge, wealth of information that he shared with us. We're definitely grateful to have the comrade on. I know that you all are like, what happened to the Rise Up Morning Show this morning? We'll be back tomorrow. Don't trip. But today we wanted to give you something special. Shout out to my Rise Up Morning crew, international crew doing their thing, and we appreciate all the work they're doing. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share this particular episode. Share what's going on the platform itself. Again, stay tuned. At noon, we will have our brother, Professor Griff from Public Enemy. He'll be on today talking about what he talking about. You know what I mean? And definitely check out our archives and support the platform, because I think that oftentimes, we forget that freedom ain't free. Scrolling at the bottom of the scroll, at the ticker at the bottom, are ways that you can support what it is we're doing. Also, we have the new magazine, in case you don't know. Go to blackpowermedia.org/shop. blackpowermedia.org/shop. For a few more days, we'll have this complimentary magazine, our first magazine that's actually on Black August. We have some real heavy articles on that. We've gotten, a whole lot of downloads, you know, so that tells us that it's a need for it. So we will come out with the second edition of Afro Pick magazine, which will drop in mid-September. So stay tuned, stay on the right side of the barricades, and as always, we will win in spite of ourselves, and stay ready for revolution. Let me give y'all this clip real quick. This is actually about our film, our trailer, Organizing is the New Cool. So make sure you support that. Be out soon. Peace.
Life is a big organization. Life is all these events, your life, everything you go through is organized, whether you know it or not. If you think you're unorganized, then you just not aware of how you are organized in life. You might as well take it into your own hands and organize it how you see fit so things can run smoothly. It's never going. You see, organizing is a key way to structurally move your plan forward into success. If you don't organize it, things will be in chaotic realms. They'll be going every which way, and you won't know how to handle it. You won't have a place to put it to where it can move in the way that you want it to. So, yeah.